Hello, good morning. I hope that everybody is well and that you've had a good week. I've had a good week. It's been a very, very busy one. I've been locked away in the study for very long hours. I've been working on preparing the Queen of the May. The proof is with our printers now, and I've had the first proof back. So we're very close to the press rolling and getting the booklet printed. Once I've had the printed booklet, I will tell you a little bit more about the Queen of the May. She's very beautiful, and she's a very doable sampler. You know, you don't have to be an advanced or even an intermediate needleworker to stitch her. Okay, so what else have I been doing in my study this week? Well, last night we had the release of the little, and you know, it is only a little sampler, but very, very sweet, Eleanor Steele. Now, Eleanor is not here with me because of lockdown. You get fed up saying because of lockdown, because of COVID, but she went to the framers, and the photographer set up a photo shoot for her, and I now have to wait for her to come back to me. I will show you the actual model next weekend. You know, it should be back by then. I can't wait for April the 12th when stores can open properly, and you know, you can just go to your framers, to your photographers, you know, you can just do things without having to think about sort of COVID and lockdown and doing things legally. Anyway, let me tell you about Eleanor Steele. Now, she is one of two sister samplers that I have. She is very small. Her stitch count is only 129 stitches by 165 stitches. She's stitched entirely in cross stitch over 2, and she only uses 7 different colours. I stitched the model with Overa Soie's Suar 103, but there is a conversion for Suar Darjee and DMC. There's one colour that you only stitch 10 stitches with, and I have specified that because, you know, it's probably not worth buying a whole skein or spool for that colour. With Eleanor, the true reproduction is not suitable for Ada or Linada, and the reason for that is that on one of her flowers she centered the stem one thread over. So what I have done, I have also done an adaptation of Eleanor where the stitch is not off centre. Because it was off centre, you couldn't stitch it on Ada or Linada. So there are 8 different versions of Eleanor you get when you download her. You have the reproduction and the adaptation in multi-page, black and white and colour. Then you have the reproduction and the adaptation as a single page in black and white and colour. And those single page graphs, they're not intended to be printed, they're intended for you to be able to work off your electronic device, whether that's a phone, a tablet, a PC, or even your television screen. And being one page, you just blow it up and there's no overlaps. Working without overlaps, you get very spoiled. When I stitch models, I stitch off my iPhone, and I've forgotten what it was like to stitch with overlaps. Now, she's available for download straight away. She's only priced at £8 and you know, that download is instant. She's not she hasn't got many stitches. She is a very quick stitch. You know, she's very, very achievable, you know, within a couple of days. Eleanor is the sampler that I showed when I was stitching her on the beautiful aged paper by Foxglove and Lace. And I am so pleased how that vintaged linen looks now that she's framed. The dramatic vintaging fades when you stitch over it, but it adds so much warmth and age to the piece. I'm very, very pleased. Now, Foxglove and Lace, they don't have a website. Hazel does all her marketing for her linen through her Instagram page. Now, there is a shortage of linen in the UK. Everybody's having problems getting deliveries of Zweigart. Zweigart is made in Germany. Germany is having huge problems with COVID. They're getting hit really, really hard at the moment. Because of Brexit for the UK, we have problems importing things from Germany. I don't know if DPD have started delivering again, but there was a long period when DPD would not ship from Germany to the UK and the UK to Germany. But Hazel has got some aged paper in stock, I believe, so that you can stitch Eleanor on that linen. I think it works so well for her. Now, Eleanor, I do love to find out a little bit about the girls. We know that Eleanor Steele worked her sampler when she was 12 years of age in 1836. There are two possible Eleanors. One was baptised on August the 29th, 1824 in St Bridget's Church in Beckenham, and the other was baptised on July the 26th in 1823 at St Bees. And I have a sneaky feeling that these two Eleanors were cousins, maybe not first cousins, but very possibly second cousins. Beckenham and St Bees are only 5 miles apart, and we write a little bit about that and give you some background history about the area, because it's going to be one of those two Eleanors. Now, Beckenham and St Bees are in Cumbria, and Cumbria is one of our northern counties that borders Scotland, and it's a beautiful part of England. I've been there twice when I've gone to Fobles, which is a UK needlework store, and when you come off the motorway, the freeway, you have this wonderful drive through the most magnificent scenery. So if ever you visit the UK and you're an outdoor type of person and you like to walk, Cumbria is so, so beautiful. Fabulous for photographers. There is a little quirk on Eleanor's sampler that she's stitched the letter J. I don't think that she forgot to stitch the rest of the lettering, so maybe it was just intended to be a J. For what reason, I don't know. You often see an odd little letter on a sampler. Jane Surtees is an example where there's just an odd A. If only we could ask them what was behind why they did something on their sampler. Anyway, I hope that you enjoy Eleanor. Many of you have already downloaded her overnight, and I hope to see some stitched Eleanors very soon. Now, last weekend we talked about the beautiful Ellen Martha Whiting, and I was so thrilled to see one needleworker has already started her and is really into stitching her. This sampler has such beautiful colours that it will bring a lot of sunshine into those evenings when you're stitching. Very, very pretty sampler. We talked about this sampler being from Norfolk, and I thought I would show you another sampler that we reproduced and released a little while ago that's from Norfolk, and that is the beautiful Anna Sophia Bircham. Those have to be some of the prettiest peacocks ever. Very, very pretty sampler. You know, Norfolk samplers don't always have to be about, you know, the lozenge shaped sampler. There are many different styles. We will be bringing out a sampler later this year that is a traditional Norfolk sampler, and it's one of the most beautiful samplers I've ever seen. It has been stitched, but it's stuck in the US at the moment. It's always a concern sending something across the Atlantic in case it gets lost. Anyway, I hope that it's going to be with me in the next maybe month or two, and it's one that I'm very, very anxious to get framed and photographed and released. We're really trying to release our larger samplers in the order that they were finished being stitched. Now that I've had my first vaccination and I feel that enough time has passed, that I have hopefully got some immunity from COVID, I will try and focus on bringing out some more printed booklets, and I hope that our larger samplers they can all be issued as a printed booklet, but we will also be doing PDFs. One thing that COVID has taught us is that so many stitchers like having PDFs, and I suppose if you think about it, it is better for our climate. You know, there's less waste, there's less of a carbon footprint from PDFs, but it is lovely having a printed booklet, and we are aware of that. Queen of the May is going to be a printed booklet, and it's also going to be a PDF, and I hope then every month to have another printed booklet, but we will keep going with the smaller samplers as PDFs. Okay, so where do I start with other things? I had a delivery of silk this week, and I am surrounded by beautiful, beautiful silks. Now, this might look a lot, but we need silk to stitch our samplers, and this will soon dwindle down. I've been busy sectioning colours off. These beautiful colours are for a model. That is a particularly gorgeous model, so that's ready to go to a model stitcher. These are some more colours for another model. That's beautiful. That's just such a simple palette, but together those work so, so well, and that's for a continental sampler. I've been very busy this week charting, and now where did I put those? Oh, I left those in the other room. Never mind, I can't remember everything. These colours, these are the new colours in the Suar Surfine. Now, Suar Surfine is a very, very fine silk that works well on 52, 62, 56 count, but Suar Surfine is also very good for stitching over one on 46 count. It's just, you can stitch over one on that count so smoothly using such a fine thread. Now I'm going to insert a list of these colours because I know that there's many people who collect all the colours as soon as they come out. Now if you go to Avera Soie's website, not Avera Soie, Access Commodities website, and download their order form for Surfine, not that you can order from them, but it gives you all the colours available. These colours are not yet on it. In the week ahead, these will be added to the order form. So with these numbers, if you want to go to a store and order them, tell them that they're new colours that are available, but might not be on that order form when the store first looks. It's so lovely to see these greens coming into stock. When you reproduce samplers, green must be the colour that you use the most. It really must be, because there are just so many shades of green that you see in reproduction samplers. For those of you who follow me, you know I'm a great walker. When I walk, I'm always looking, and you know, green is the main colour that you see outdoors besides a blue sky. And when you really look at green, there are so many shades of green in nature as well. Very, very pretty colours. I'm looking forward to stitching with them and incorporating them into my designs. Now, with the Surfine, this is the entire range of Surfine. You can't have too many silks. These are some different threads that have come. Now, I've never stitched with the Avera Soie metallics. These are just 3 for me to play with. There is an antique silver. I should have my glasses on for this. A Renaissance gold. And then we have a white gold glint. We actually have a sampler in production at the moment that uses some metallic thread. I think the little girl was trying to create the effect of a stained glass window in the building that's in her sampler. What else came? Oh, now these are really, really interesting. Let me pop those in this tray. I should have brought some more trays with me. Trays are so useful for the threads. Let's pop these in here. Now, these are Londonerry linen threads, and these colours are mouth-watering. And it's lovely to see the run through the shades of colour. And I'll be adding these to my collection. I haven't got very many Londonerry threads. I had more of the neutrals because the linen threads are very, very useful when you are conserving samplers to use to attach a sampler to a linen covered backboard. But anyway, it'd be lovely to stitch with these colours. So, so pretty. The other things that came, which is a little bit different to what I normally work with, and I need my glasses, this writing is so small, is Suar Perlee and the Trezibond. I have quite a few of these. When I sort of really got into cross stitch, I love stitching Victoria Sampler. I love Thea Duke's work, and you know, Thea uses a lot of these in her designs, or she used to. The other thing that came this week were these, what do they call them? Hop Hop thread drops. And this is another way of storing your threads whilst you're stitching. You loop your thread through here and through there, and you write on it the colour and the thread type, and then you can just hang that. Like for me, that would go on the little hook on my stand, and I thought that what I would do when I'm using this Suar Darjee, I would put whole strands through that hole, the larger hole, and then if I pull some thread from a length, I would put it in the smaller hole. That was just what I was intended to do. I love all like little, the little things, the little pretties that go with needlework. It just adds to the pleasure of stitching. Very appropriate as we're coming up to Easter to have a bunny. Okay, so what else came? Some wild honey linen. Beautiful, beautiful coloured linen. Wild honey is legacy linen. It's 37 count. So it's a sort of a lovely sized count that is, most people should be able to work on this linen, and the weave of wild honey is a great one to actually see. This colour, whatever threads you put on this linen, the linen takes on those colours. This is so versatile, it's well worth having in your stash. Sandra, who is one of my dearest friends, and she shares the adventure and the journey of hats with me. This has become one of her favourite linens to work on. She stitched the little drum, our sampler garden, on wild honey, and Sandra is actually stitching another drum at the moment on this linen, and just wait till you see this drum. It is absolutely adorable. I'm so excited to see it finished and to send it off to Faye Rigsby for finishing, and then to be able to present it to you. So anyway, this is going over to Australia because Sandra very shortly is going to be starting to stitch the most amazing sampler, and this sampler, we were very, very lucky to find two samplers stitched obviously in the same school, and we think that the two girls were cousins, so we've got one each, but Sandra has the pleasure of reproducing hers and stitching it, because it's everything about a sampler that Sandra adores. So, okay, stitching wise, well, I've been busy stitching on this crazy sampler, and she really is coming together. There is an Adam and Eve to be stitched here, and I've got a few little more. Honestly, if there's a little space, she squidges something in. There's some more motifs to stitch up here, and I've got to fill in this border. Now, I talked about this border before, and I said that I wasn't sure whether I was going to correct her error or stitch it as a true reproduction. And last night, I decided I was going to stitch it as a true reproduction. So you can see she got it wrong. This did not join up here as it did here. if you wanted to stitch that so it was perfect all the way around, you would literally just have to stitch another diamond at the bottom and then follow it up properly like this, and it will meet up perfectly with this one. But I did this as a true reproduction, although I must tell you that the original sampler, the background was fully stitched as well, which I'm not going to do. That would take all the enjoyment out of the sampler for me, and I think that looks very, very pretty as it is. This fabric was such a fabulous match to the original, and this is linen from Dukas of JuDesign, and it's grey sand. The dramatic vintaging again now has faded, and you're just getting you know, some mellow aging coming through the sampler. I have been trying to think of a name for this sampler, and you know, this is a little girl with a really vivid imagination, and I've always thought of this as Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, you know, maybe you know, something sort of very sort of 60s and psychedelic. Obviously this sampler is a Welsh sampler. It was probably stitched around about 1850 to 1870. So the Beatles hadn't even been invented then. So anyway, but Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, because there are so many diamonds in this sampler. You know, not only is the border made up with diamonds, there's diamonds all through this sampler. So I've been calling it Lucy in the Garden with Diamonds, but we can't call it that because that could be sort of some sort of copyright infringement on Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. So last night I thought of the name Tom's Foolery, and I thought we could call him Tom, and it could be Tom's Foolery, which is a play on tomfoolery. Although you could call this sampler Where's Wally, but again I thought that probably wasn't a good idea. If you can think of a name for this sampler, I would be really, really interested to hear, so just leave it in a comment. You know, the name's not fixed yet. Now, I was very, very busy this week charting. I've had a real roll and splurge on charting and researching. And this sampler, I was charting a bit, stitching a bit, charting a bit, stitching a bit, and on, was it Thursday? I think it was Thursday night. I finished working, it was probably about 7 o'clock at night, and I'd spent a lot of hours in the study, and I realised that I hadn't charted a little bit more of this for me to stitch. So I decided to start another sampler that I had charted just for that night, because I can't sit and not stitch. So this is a sampler that I have started to stitch, this sampler, it means a lot to me, and I'll explain why. Some of you may have seen on social media that this sampler was sold last weekend, and it was sold for a lot of money. It was sold for far more than anybody, I expect, thought it would make. I bought this sampler because Harriet stitched this sampler in Cardiff, and I was born and spent the first 40 years of my life in Newport, which is right next door to Cardiff, and Cardiff is somewhere that, you know, I spent a lot of time in. So when I saw this sampler come up for sale, Cardiff caught my eye. Then I really loved the little verse that she stitched on here. Children, obey your parents in all things, for this is well pleasing unto the Lord. Be kindly affectioned one to another with brotherly love. and Harriet stitched this, or finished it on October the 18th, 1849. So I stopped and I looked at the sampler, and I decided to have a little look at Harriet. And Harriet's story touched me so deeply. I can't remember now off the top of my head whether she was 10, 11 or 12 when she stitched the sampler, but when she was 13 she was working as a servant. When she was 15 she was married to her first cousin. 2 months later she gave birth to her first of 10 children. And in a later census we find out that the first 2 children were imbeciles. That's such a horrid term, but that was how the census back in the 1800s categorised people that had some sort of disability. Harriet, that just sort of touched me so much, and lots of questions were raised in my mind. Why did they leave it till just 2 months before she was due to give birth? Maybe she hid her pregnancy from her employers, her parents. Maybe she didn't realise she was pregnant. And you know, women years ago, you know, they didn't have the rights or the luxuries or the privileges that we have. I feel so much for these little girls. Now, Harriet came from one of the border counties of England. Her father was a labourer, and he moved into Cardiff to work for the Marquis of Bute when the docks and the canals were being developed. And after his contract had finished, they moved back to England. Now, this is following in the footsteps of my husband's family and a branch of my family. So many people moved to Cardiff for the work opportunities that was generated by the development of the docks and the development of the canal system to bring the goods to and from the dock. My husband's family came from the border counties of England into Cardiff. He also had his Irish family come into Cardiff to work for the development of the docks. I had family come over from Somerset. And with Ray, it was on both sides of his family. And his great-great-grandmother, she got pregnant when she was young, but she didn't have anybody to marry her. She gave birth to her baby in the workhouse as an unmarried mother. That's why all of those things meant that I really, really wanted this little sampler. And yes, the price that was paid for it was high, and it's been very interesting reading people's comments on social media about it. But I'm owning up, I bought it, but it's worth every penny to me just for that back story. It's my privilege now to be able to follow in Harriet's footsteps and stitch her little sampler. As soon as it arrived, I charted it, and I feel a connection with little Harriet. It's funny the reasons why we buy samplers. This little sampler I bought, and it's just a basic plain little sampler, but I've bought this sampler because it has the name of E. Cunningham. And Cunningham, it's not an extremely rare name, but it's not a common name in this country. And one of my best friends, her daughter Ellie, is an Ellie Cunningham, and I've seen Ellie grow up into the most beautiful, amazing young lady, and this is going to be a gift for Ellie. I'll reproduce the little sampler, and then I will gift her the original and the model. And I know that though Ellie doesn't stitch, she will appreciate it. as a little girl and as a young lady, and she still does it now as an adult for me. She always sorts my silks, and she used to come in as a little girl and sit down with all my silks and organise them. And if ever I have a new delivery, Ellie would come in and put all the silks away in order for pocket money. So I think it'll be lovely for Ellie to have that little sampler. And the other thing that I think is lovely on this little sampler is the little motto: speak the truth, love one another. That's not bad things to live by. So that's why I bought that sampler. We're very lucky in the UK that we have the Cross Stitch Guild. Now, the Cross Stitch Guild was formed by Jane Greenough in March 1996, and it became a worldwide organisation with committed and enthusiastic body of members. And the Cross Stitch Guild deals with cross stitch and other forms of counted embroidery, including blackwork, hemstitch, pulled and drawn thread work, hardanger and canvas work. And the Cross Stitch Guild members receive a full colour magazine 5 times a year with projects, technical advice, information and special offers. On their website they have an online store where members receive 10% discount and free postage. And also they say that there's reduced postal rates for overseas members. And in the UK, the Cross Stitch Guild runs very popular classes and weekends available to members at a discount. So if you're in the UK in particular, have a look at the Cross Stitch Guild and have a little think about joining. Andrea, who runs it now, she's a delight to speak to on the telephone. That's just something for UK needleworkers. We have so little. Okay, I think that covers everything that I wanted to speak to you about this week. I'm sure I've probably forgotten something, but that's just me. What are my plans for the week ahead? Well, the golf courses open back up next week. So my husband has 3 rounds of golf booked. So what I plan to do on those days is start to take the dogs on some longer walks and hikes. I think Hugo is old enough now that we can sort of beef up the mileage a little bit. Hopefully it'll help me lose a bit of the weight I've put on during lockdown. I think we've all put on weight. When you go out and you see people that you recognise, everybody looks shaggy because we haven't been able to have our hair cut, and everybody looks as if they've put on weight as well. I'll be able to walk with my friend this week, and it's just going to be so nice to be able to walk with somebody and chat and catch up. And 2 weeks tomorrow, hairdressers open. You know what I'm going to be doing on that day. Stay safe, stay well, and if God is kind, I'll be back next week with some more ramblings. Bye-bye.